Hi. Today I wanted to talk about how we create our reality and how we can change our reality. So first of all, I want you to understand that during our first years of life, we are programmed with the history of our ancestors inside of us. So we have the stories, we have the traumas, we have the programming from society, all inside of us stored in our connective tissue. How do I know that? I know that because along my journey of going inside and feeling inside, memories will often pop up as I'm releasing tension in the connective tissue. A memory will pop into my mind of something that happened in the past and then just disappear. It's a place memory. So I know where something happened. Maybe it's something that happened in Hong Kong, maybe it's something that happened in England. I know where exactly it happened, but I don't know what happened. So I know that part of the memory of what exactly happened is stored perhaps somewhere else, but I do know those place memories are stored in the connective tissue. Now, that happened a lot early on in my journey. It does not happen as much now. And I think it's because I'm at a deeper level. I'm actually releasing tension that is stored or was stored in my subconscious mind in my early years. You've probably all heard that phrase that we hear about, that we are like a sponge in those early years of our life. We're absorbing everything into our subconscious mind, so we're not aware of it. It's just sitting there in our subconscious mind, which is stored in our body, physically in our body. And then it becomes part of our signal. It's part of my signal. What I went through in those first few years of life live within me. And I experienced in those first few years of life the signals that my parents were emitting. And I absorbed those into my subconscious mind. And they did the same when they were children. They stored in their subconscious minds what their parents were emitting. And back it goes through the generations. That's how we pass things through the generations, through stories, through trauma, through programming. That's why things don't change so fast. So each of us emit a really complex set of signals from all those things that are stored inside of us. For those of you who are aware of string theory, think of it as string theory on a larger scale, because our connective tissue, where this information is stored, is basically a set of strings, many, many, many strings, each of which are emitting a signal. The connective tissue is a constantly changing lattice of strings. Now, if you've seen pictures of fascia or connective tissue on the internet, you will see that there are also adhesions, there are entanglements of strings. And you will realize that the signals emitted from the individual strings without the entanglement would be very different from the signal emitted from an entangled set of strings or an adhesion of the strings to other tissue. Now, if you've heard me talk before or you read my book, you'll know that I talk about us emitting a signal. Now, clearly, it's a very complex signal because a whole history is involved in that signal. But we attract back into our life, into our future, based on the signal that we're emitting right now. So there is something outside of us that we attract into our life based on something inside of us. So to change what we attract into our future, into our life, we need to change our signal that we're emitting right now. To do that, I use and recommend a few techniques, but all of the techniques have one thing in common, and that is they are having you focus on, to feel, to accept, to look at really closely either a memory or a feeling or tension in the connective tissue itself. Focusing on an entanglement in the connective tissue releases, relaxes the adhesion, the connective tissue, not only inside the body, but also what we're attracting outside into our future. And that is how we change our world, ourself. That is why it is called the universe, because it is all about us and our entanglements and our history, our programming, the trauma that we store inside of us. We can change our future by changing ourselves, by releasing those entanglements. And in the moment of that release, we change something outside of ourselves. So we have the capability to change our own lives. I know that was a bit complex. I hope you understood what I was saying. Maybe have a good week. Talk to you next week. Bye bye.